Dear colleagues, my talk will be about our project of a Portuguese myocarditis registry. This is my only disclosure. It will be an initiative of our working group. The scientific sponsor will be, we hope, the Portuguese Society of Cardiology. There is an executive committee with all the responsibilities already told before. I will be the national coordinator, Professor Elizabeth Martins from São João Hospital at Oporto, and Dr. Marisa Pérez from Santarém Hospital will be my co-coordinators. Professor Lino Gonçalves from Coimbra will be an important piece in this registry, including due to its important role in CHC-DC. Why a Portuguese myocarditis registry? I think that the first order of reasons is because of they have or may have consequences. Chronic heart failure is a very prevalent condition and the leading cause of cardiovascular morbidity and mortality. And according to the EPICA study in Portugal mainland, published about 4 to 5 years ago, the overall prevalence of chronic heart failure is 44%, and that due to systolic dysfunction, 1.3%. 50% of heart failure patients are classified as having idiopathic heart failure in origin, and viral or post-viral autoimmune myocarditis is suspected as the cause of a large proportion of these patients. Although about half of patients who receive a diagnosis of acute viral myocarditis will develop dilated cardiomyopathy, and a lot of patients with non-ischemic dilated cardiomyopathy who have had a clinical episode of myocarditis have genomic viral DNA persistence in myocardial samples. So we think that this is a first good reason. The second one is that because the national reality on acute myocarditis is really unknown. There are no standardized strategies for diagnosis or treatment. A complete panel of tests, including serologies, is usually performed in all hospitals, but its clinical utility is doubtful. MRIs being increasingly performed, but biopsies are rarely performed, and there are no treatment protocols nor published data regarding follow-up. We know that myocarditis is a difficult diagnosis. Its true incidence remains unclear. Diagnosis is very difficult to achieve sometimes because signs and symptoms, ECG changes, biomarkers, echo imaging, and other non-invasive studies are non-specific. MRI is non-invasive, has no radiation exposure, has a limited risk, may help to guide biopsies. And we also know that the MRI-based diagnosis may be related to the degree and extent of histological inflammation, but it is an expensive examination to perform. Biopsies remain the gold standard for diagnosis, but virosis may also cause myocardial damage with no or little histological inflammation. It demands technical expertise to avoid complications. It's invisible in epidemiological studies, and it is very important, a comprehensive investigation of biopsies. Hopeful confirmation of myocarditis by histological examination is not always required for an optimal clinical care. A web search during the last, regarding the last century of publications with the main word myocarditis found a lot of full papers published, and it's obviously that interest and knowledge in this subject is growing up. Last decade, 17 full papers on myocarditis were published in the Portuguese Journal of Cardiology, and 14 abstracts were accepted for presentation at our annual Congress. So we really think that we need to know more about our reality. It is planned a pilot survey with 1 year inclusion, with the beginning at next May, plus 1 year of follow-up. This is to provide a picture of diagnostic and care attitudes across the country based on observational data, and to develop eventually standardized strategies for diagnostics and treatment, and perhaps to establish a long-term registry to assess epidemiology and management, namely diagnostic therapy costs and disease outcomes. This pilot survey will be a national multi-centered prospective study. We will create a network of volunteer centers. I think that this is the correct number. 55 hospital cardiology departments in Portugal will receive information and invitation to participate. There will be 1 principal investigator per center. Will be ideal to use online electronic CRFs, informative but simple. And as I said, 1 year inclusion is planned, and also 1 year of follow-up. This is the map of Portugal with the potential centers. Inclusion criteria will be the classic ones. Adults consecutively admitted to hospital with a diagnosis fulfilling criteria for acute myocarditis, the probable criteria, or obviously the confirmed criteria. Our aims will be, first, to record the current standards for diagnostic workup and care attitudes of patients with acute myocarditis, to describe the therapeutic approaches currently employed, to determine the proportion of patients in whom MRI and biopsies are performed, and to get insights about its relevance regarding a change of clinical attitude and or therapeutic decisions. Also to report the outcome after 1 year of hospital discharge, considering the clinical outcome and the functional outcome. To develop standardized cost-effective strategies for diagnosis and treatment, and the last, to get conclusions about the realistic opportunity or interest of establishing a long-term registry. Logistically, it will follow the standards of our national society. We think it will be important to have also a steering committee because there will be decisions that must be taken concerning several issues, and obviously will be selected centers submitted to auditories. We will begin at the beginning. We'll stop when it will be the moment to stop. Thank you.